Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Liv here, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make a unique, delicious, simple, yet low-fat meatloaf. So this isn't your traditional meatloaf with real eggs and fatty ground beef. This is actually a meatloaf that uses extremely lean ground beef, so 96.4, and I also use egg whites instead of regular eggs or whole eggs, just to watch my fat content. This meatloaf also has cooked quinoa along with some cauliflower rice. The reason why I do this is because I want to make my meatloaf be a full meal and be full of flavor. So what that means is that you can eat this by itself, or you can serve it with mashed potatoes, rice, or whatever side of your choice. So stick around and I'll show you how to make this delicious, healthy, lower fat meatloaf. Okay, so to make our meatloaf today, we're gonna use 2 pounds of lean ground beef. I use 96.4. I like to use the leanest ground beef that I can find because I try to watch my fat content. Next, I have 1 cup of cooked quinoa, and then I also mixed in half of a cup of cooked cauliflower rice. These are my seasonings. I did about 2 teaspoons of Miss Dash with no salt. I did about half a teaspoon of thyme. I did a pinch of black pepper, a pinch of white pepper, 1 teaspoon of ground garlic, 1 teaspoon of ground onion powder, and about a teaspoon of salt. This is just what I like to use. You can feel free to use whatever seasonings you like. I have a cup of egg whites, and then I have 2 teaspoons of better than bouillon beef. I have 1.5 cup of breadcrumbs. I know it's a lot of breadcrumbs, but I wanted to use up all the crackers that I had. What I did was just pulverize the crackers in my blender, and this is what I came up with. I have a little bit of cilantro. I had a little bit left, so I just put a little, as much as I can get, probably a teaspoon of cilantro. I have 1/3 of an onion, and I have about 3/4 of a cup of ketchup. And to this ketchup, I added 1 teaspoon of brown sugar. I added a little bit of cinnamon and also a little bit of allspice. Again, you can use whatever you'd like for your ketchup. This is just what I had on hand and what I like. Now, I know this isn't a typical traditional meatloaf, but my meatloaf, I add more stuff to it because I want it to be a whole meal. So I have some carbs, I have some vegetables, and then again, I have my protein. So let's go ahead and get started with sauteing our onions. So I'm gonna go ahead and lightly brown my onions, not the cilantro. The cilantro I'm gonna add raw to my ground beef. But for right now, I'm cooking my onion in about a teaspoon of oil. Okay, so my onions are nice and caramelized. I'm gonna let them cool off for a little bit before I add them to the ground beef. And once they're cool, I'm gonna go ahead and put all the ingredients into the ground beef. Okay, so while I wait for my onions to cool down, I'm gonna start putting the breadcrumbs into the ground beef along with the egg whites. That way it starts moistening up the bread or soaking up the moisture. And also, please note, do not overmix your beef and your ingredients, because this will cause your meat to be tough and you want it to be nice and tender. So again, I'm going to lightly mix the meat and the breadcrumbs along with the egg whites so the crumbs can absorb the moisture from the meat and the egg whites. Once my onions are cooled off, I'm going to go ahead and add the rest of the ingredients. Okay, so my onions are now completely cooled. I went ahead and put them in the freezer for like 3-4 minutes just to get them to cool down. And then my cooked quinoa also went in the freezer to cool it off a little bit. Again, you don't want to add hot product to the egg because you don't want the egg to cook. So let's go ahead and add our onion. And we're gonna try not to over mix, because again, we don't want our meatloaf to be tough. We want it to be soft, tender, and juicy. Okay, so there's everything. Now we're gonna just lightly mix, or mix to the best of your ability. Okay, so after I finished mixing my meatloaf, I went ahead and sprayed my loaf pan with non-fat cooking spray. You want to do that. That's really important. You don't want your meat to stick to the pan. So yeah, you just go ahead and place your meat in your pan, and then you start to pretty much mold it to your pan. This is a super simple but really delicious meatloaf recipe. Again, when I make meatloaf, I want to make sure it's a complete meal with carbs, protein, and all kinds of good stuff in here. Herbs, seasoning. I just really want to make it a meal, so I don't have to eat much on the side. You can go ahead and eat mashed potatoes with this on the side, or if you like, or you can just eat this alone as is. Okay, so I actually preheated my oven to 375 degrees. I'm gonna go ahead and cook it for about 35 minutes before I check it. Once it starts to brown a little bit, I'm gonna go ahead and add the ketchup to the top and put it back in for another 10-15 minutes, depending on how the meatloaf looks. Okay, so while I was cooking the meatloaf, I did actually cover it with foil so it can continue to cook, or cook a little faster. This is lightly browned on the edges, so that's a good sign. So now I'm gonna just go ahead and add my ketchup. I might have a little bit too much ketchup and I don't want it to spill on the side, so I'm just going to cover it, but I don't want the ketchup overflowing from the side. So just lightly cover your meatloaf with as much ketchup as you want, or as much as your pan allows. Yeah, just like this. And I'm also gonna try to tuck some on the sides too, that way I can put a little bit more, because I don't really like to waste food. I like to use everything, you know, to the best of my ability. Food waste to me is not good at all, so maybe I can sneak all this on here, not sure. Let's hope for the best, right? Okay, so now that this is completely covered, I'm gonna go ahead and put back into the oven. Okay, so I have all the ketchup on there. Now I'm gonna go ahead and return it to the oven for maybe an additional 10 to 15 minutes. I just want slight crusting on my ketchup. The meatloaf is pretty much mostly all the way cooked through. So again, we're gonna cook it for another 10 to 15 minutes. So after baking it an additional 10 minutes, this is what it looks like. I'm kind of rushed for time right now, or I don't have as much time right now, but this is what I'm going to pull it out as. And yeah, we're ready to start plating our food. Outtake. Okay. Okay, so here's our final product. It's nice and cooked through. You got a little bit of a glaze on the ketchup, which is what you want. And again, you can eat this meatloaf by itself because it has the quinoa and the riced cauliflower in it, along with the breadcrumbs. I consider it a full meal by itself. Or you can go ahead and plate this with mashed potatoes on the side, or even like some rice or something, whatever you'd like. But yeah, this is, again, a lower calorie, lower fat meatloaf due to the lean ground beef that I use, and also the egg whites. So I hope you give this recipe a try, and don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you next time. Bye.